Hi there. My name is Flo, and I'm here to talk about how to check if a specific variable exists within a collection variable in Salesforce Flow. And so this question stems about and is inspired by this Reddit post where a user is actually trying to see if a specific value occurs more than once in a collection variable. My solution will be flexible enough that you can dictate and specify the logic that happens based on whether it found it once, more than once, or 0 times. So now let's get to the solution, which is here, and you'll see that there's not really any arrows configured except for that one. That's because I want to walk through the solution with you. So to start out, we start by with our get record element, and what it's doing, it's getting all of my users in my org and assigning them to this all users record collection variable. And so this is the record collection variable that I compare to later on. I also want to show you this user ID to check variable, which is going to be the value that I check against. Yeah, and so this user ID to check, it's a simple text variable. It's available for input though, which is important because I'm going to be setting it at the start of the flow with this value here, which is the ID of a user record within my org. All right, so then from there, I think this is where a lot of us are stuck, is what do we do? How do we compare a collection variable to a normal variable? And so a tip for new Salesforce admins and developers is that if you're dealing with a collection variable and you need to do some sort of operation based on it, then you're probably going to need to use a loop. So if you click on this loop here, we'll see that the collection variable that I assigned is the all users collection variable that I talked about earlier. And so this loop is going to traverse through all of the values. Uh, it's going to traverse through each value within this collection variable and perform some sort of action that is within the loop based on it. Uh, so what are those actions that we need to do within that loop? So number one, what we need to do is compare the current item of the loop, so the current record in that collection variable, and see if it's the same value as the value you want to compare to. In this case, it would be my user ID here, and determine if it's a match or not, if they're the same value. And so if it is the same, or if it's not the same, then we don't care. We just want it to kind of go through the loop again and traverse through all the values. But if it is a match, then we want a way to count how many times that happens. And so what what we've done is created a decision and an assignment element to handle that. And so our decision element first compares and sees if there's a match between the user ID and the current item on the loop, which is just user IDs, a collection of user IDs. And if it's a match, and if it's equal, then it's a match. If they're not equal, then it's a no match, and it'll go through my default outcome. And so I'm going to set it up. So this loop will go through the decision first each time. And if there's no match, then we want it to go back to the start of the loop. But if there is a match, then we want to add to a counter variable. In this case, our counter variable is user count underscore in list. I know, very creative. Just want to show you how this counter variable is set up. It's a data type of number. The decimal places are 0. And the most important part here is that the default value is also 0. And it's important that you set it as 0 because otherwise, if you don't, Salesforce is going to, every time the flow runs, it's going to declare the value for this variable as null. And so when you try to do certain operations like add, you can't add to a null value. Salesforce is going to throw an error. And so that's why it's important to make this default value 0. In our assignment variable, or sorry, assignment element here, we place our counter variable and we add 1 to it. And after that, so this is the outcome if it's a match. And then once we're done, once we added the number, added 1 to the counter variable, then we want it to go back to the loop and finish counting all the rest of the variables within that collection. So we have the loop set up. Okay, that means we have it set up to traverse through all the collection variables. So now what happens when it's done? So just logically, now we need to determine what the value in the counter variable is. Is it 0? Is it 1? Is it more than 1? And so that's where this decision element comes through. And so now we want to compare. So basically, I'm gonna check if that variable exists within the collection variable by checking if the user count, our counter variable, is greater than 1. Than 0. Remember, we set this as a default value 0, and so if it's greater than it, that means there was at least one match. And so if this criteria here is not true, then it's going to go to the next outcome, which is our default outcome, meaning it does not exist. The value does not exist in the collection variable. The Reddit user could actually change this outcome to be greater than 1 and fulfill their criteria. However, we would need to add another outcome if we wanted to check for exactly 1. So that's what I meant by being able to tweak the execution, the logic afterwards, based on the logic. So now we point the loop to this new decision here, and now we have our two outcomes. I have two different screens. One is if it is found, and another one is if it's not found. And so this one would go up here. Yes, exists. No, it does not exist. All right, so I'm going to hit save. And so I'm going to copy this ID number, and I'm going to debug it. And so ideally, it's going to go through all of this, and it'll go through this decision element and go up this outcome, because this record appears exactly, or this value appears exactly once in that collection variable, and I know that. But we're just testing here. So user ID to check is this. Hit run, and boom, exactly. So yes, found, and the user count in the list is exactly 1. And that's it. So fairly simple once you get into it, but if you have any questions or feel like this could be a better solution doing something else, let me know. Happy to always learn new and better things. And yeah, it was great talking with you guys. I don't know if I'll have a video before Thanksgiving, but if I don't, I hope you have a great evening that time. Enjoy it, be safe. Try to stay safe as much as possible. I know it's hard, but please, please, please. All right, talk soon.